It's so hot today that I am going to enjoy a glass of rosé while I'm having a lovely quinoa salad with some greens from my garden, which I think is going to go perfectly well with this Chateau Burn rosé. Anyway, today I want to talk to you guys about some do's and don'ts of wines. In other words, wine etiquette. First of all, one of the things I see happen a lot, and especially in restaurants, is that they tend to chill their glass for their white wines and their sparkling wines, champagnes. My advice to you is to chill the wine and not the glass. As when you chill the glass, what you're doing is actually introducing water droplets into that wine. So you're, in a sense, adding some water to your wines. You don't want to do that. So just polish your glass, leave them nice and clean and shine, and chill your wine instead. Okay? As we talk about that, we're also going to go into something extremely important with wine, which is wine temperatures. The temperature of wine, what happened, we tend to drink our white wines way too cold and our red wines way too hot. So a guideline for your white wines would, and of course your lighter body wines should be treated a little different from your full bodied whites. So your lighter bodied wines are going to be about 4 to 8 centigrade, and your full bodied are going to be about 8 to 10. The same thing with your rosés. You're going to treat your rosés as you would your full bodied, so you're going to do 8 to 10 degrees centigrade. For your red wines, guys, you keep hearing room temperature. Yes, but we don't have European room temperature. We have hot and hotter. That's what our temperature, especially in this part of the world, Jamaica, we get from hot to hotter. So room temperature, guys, just does not work here, and that's the European room temperature or the English cellar, that's not us. So your red wines, your lighter bodied red wines, you want to go about 13 to 15 degrees centigrade, and your full bodied you want to be about 15 to 20 degrees centigrade. So those are the temperatures you want to stick to when you're doing your red wine. So that means, yes, Jamaica, we and Caribbean or hot countries, you do need to put your red wines in the fridge. Or if you don't have a wine fridge, a regular refrigerator will do before you consume. Otherwise, it's going to taste like you're drinking battery acid. Really not a pleasant taste at all. So please, yes, chill your red wines. So when you go to your friend's home and see their red wines in the fridge, don't laugh at them. They are doing the right thing. Okay, another thing, it's a pet peeve of mine, holding your glass. There's a reason they put a stem on the glass, is because you're to hold it by the stem. We don't want to cup and hug our glass, because what we're doing is we're warming our wines. All right, so we want to keep it at the stem and elegantly. When you're filling your glass of wine, you don't want to overfill. You want to give just enough to give some room to swirl your wine. And please do not refill white wines or champagne while there's still wine in the glass, because what you're doing now is putting cold wine on something that has gotten a little warm. So you want to wait until the glass is pretty much empty, then you refill, okay? Unless somebody asks you, of course, say, please fill my glass, then you do. But try to discourage them and have them just wait so they can get another chill glass of wine instead of diluting warm wine with cool wine, okay? Or cool wine with warm wine. No, the other way around. Warm wine with cool wine. So you want to wait until you're finished, then you refill your cold wines. All right. Another thing you're going to do is when you're storing your bottles of wine, you want to lay them down on the side, especially those that have cork. You want the cork to stay moist. You want to seal off the air in that bottle, and that's what laying the cork down does. With the screw tops, you can leave them up. But once they have a cork, you want to lay it down so the cork keeps in contact with the wine and keeps the oxygen from getting into the wine. In essence, is sealing the wine so there's not no oxygen getting inside that bottle while you're waiting to use the wine. Okay, another thing you see, you go to a restaurant, you order a fabulous bottle of wine, and you see people ask for the cork or the way to present the cork, and then you smell the cork. No, 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 no. You do not smell your cork. The tradition of handing the cork to the customer came about in the days when you had a lot of dishonesty around wines, and you would go out and someone would present you a fabulous bottle of wine that is not what's inside the bottle. They would take a cheaper version of wine, pour it into a nice expensive bottle, and then cork it. So the tradition of handing you the cork is for you to actually look at your cork to make sure what the cork says is the same as the label of the bottle, so you know that you're getting the exact wine that you're ordering or what they say is in the bottle. So really that's the tradition. You really, the best way to know if a wine is cork is to actually smell the wine itself, not smelling the cork. All right. So another thing too we're going to do is, and yes, and especially always refrigerate your leftover reds. Okay, always refrigerate your leftover red. And the trick really, once you've opened a bottle of wine, you're trying to get rid of the oxygen, because after you have had your wine, initially oxygen is your friend. You want to air the wine, you want to soften your tannins, you want oxygen to reach your wines. But when you're going to store that wine now, because you haven't finished the whole bottle, I mean, yeah, there are some people out there, yeah, as crazy as it might sound, there's some people who have leftover wines. What you want to do then is, when you're doing leftover wine, you really want no contact. So the best thing really, I mean, we don't want to do that to transfer wine from bottle to bottle, but if we had a smaller bottle that we could put the wine in to cork to leave the least room for oxygen, that would be really the best way to preserve wine. But since we're probably, even if we have it left over, it's just for a day, then you know you can just cork it back and just put it in the fridge until the next day when you're ready to finish that wine. All right. If you're at a wine event or you're having a wine dinner and you're serving multiple wines, the thing you want to do is you're going to want to serve your wines in order. You want to go from the lightest to the heaviest. You want to go from your driest wine to the sweetest. So for example, you'd always start with your sparkling wines. Then you go to your light whites, which would be your Sauvignon Blanc, your dry Riesling. Then you move on to your heavier whites, which would be your Chardonnay or Viognier, and then your rosés. Then for your reds, you would go from your lightest, which would be your Pinot Noir, a Barbera. Then you'd go into your mediums, which could be your Merlots, and then finally your heavier wines, which would be your Cabs, your Malbecs, and then your dessert wine, which would be your Sauternes or your late harvest, your ice wine, your Moscatos. So those would be your the last wine to drink. And of course, bubblies start with your sparkling, but you can also, champagne is good with even dessert, so you can always end with your champagne if that is what your intention is. All right, so those are some of the do's and don'ts of drinking, handling wine, handling your wine glass. And of course, as the courses go along, there will be things I remember each time we're doing something specific to a particular wine, and I will give you more tips, more do's and don'ts. But as this is Wine 101 for beginners, I don't want to put too much down your throat or too much for you to have to think about and go, oh my God, and get confused and losing the enjoyment of just having a glass of wine. But there are just some things that I want you to be aware of when you're having your glass of rosé. Cheers, or any other wine. But today I'm having my glass of rosé with my salad. Cheers.